Well, here at this center, we have a minister, but we also have a rotation of guest speakers who bring us a different perspective each Sunday on a topic that we choose for the month. And so this month, we are looking at My Cup Runneth Over. And our guest speaker today is one of our practitioners that serves here at the center. Her name is Cheryl Clark. She has participated in a number of roles here, not the least of which is to be a major support to me. She often texts and reminds me the things that I am about to forget, so I'm so grateful to have her as someone serving here at the center. She coordinates the prayer team. She's a Sunday speaker. She's a platform assistant, and she's the teacher of some of our Science of Mind courses, and one of the courses is going on right now. She applies these core teachings throughout her life, including in her work as a speech and language pathologist at Central Elementary School. So please help me welcome Cheryl Clark.
No, it should be lit up. Okay. Sorry to keep you waiting. All right. A lot of changes here this morning, and I'm going to change things up one more time. Before I start my talk, I would like to give you a little activity to participate in. You all received a bulletin this morning, and it was a little bit different because on the back of that bulletin was a sticky piece of paper, and you also got a marker. So what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. Let me just demonstrate. I think that would be the easiest. Would you stand, please? She's going to give me her paper, and I'm going to apply it to her back. And I'll have my own marker, but for now, I'll borrow hers, and I'm going to make some statement of truth about her. It could be a word or a phrase, and in this case, I'll probably put like awesome leader. And if it's someone you know, you can make a comment that's specific to them, wonderful dedication or wonderful laughter for Edie. If it's somebody that you don't know, just put a word of truth, beautiful, creative, glad you're here, something that's truthful that you would like to share with them. You can copy something that somebody else has said if you think it's appropriate. And I'm going to ask you to do this in silence. And I'll give you a few minutes to go around and collect statements from people on your back. Try and collect as many as you can. It's kind of like getting your autograph book signed. Go for it. So as Bonnie said, the theme for this month is My Cup Runneth Over. My cup runneth over. Indeed. Why? Presumably the cup belongs to me. Apparently I need a bigger cup. Do I keep my cup small because I'm trying to let the universe know that I don't want to receive more abundance in my life? Or do I limit the size of my cup because I'm suggesting that I can't imagine receiving any more good? Or maybe I'm keeping that cup small because I don't think I deserve anything more. In any case, I seem to be limiting it. You know, I think if there's an unlimited, infinite amount of good, why can't I receive limitless good in my infinitely large cup? It might help maybe if we could change the name. I think it's worthwhile examining how we react to words that we hear or use. Sometimes particular words are a turnoff. Some words come with a lot of ancient baggage, like for some of us, perhaps the word sin or the word God has connotations that we deal with. Some words just don't sound good to us. The word cup sounds so German. I have nothing against Germany, but I don't think anyone ever said that German is a particularly elegant sounding language. I like the word chalice. That's so much more elegant, you know, French. And those sounds, chalice. You've got your voiceless plosive, your lateral approximant, and your voiceless sibilant for those linguists in the group. Fred? I suppose we could go with the word grail, maybe Holy Grail. Maybe we're all on a quest to find a container that's big enough to contain all of our good. You know, I think what's going to happen is that as we get better and better at realizing and accepting our good, we're going to be walking around making puddles everywhere. We just need to have a bigger container. We need a chalice that's big enough to hold the universe. It's your container, and the contents of the universe are available to you, so think big. Wait a second, though. Let's dissect this cup. Isn't that the Western way to kind of break things into parts and analyze them carefully? It seems to me the whole point of the theme from this month was to remind us that there's an awful lot of good available to us, but that we don't always experience life that way. As Jerry Lund was saying last week, in fact, the title of his talk was, "Is Your Cup Full Yet?" Implying that we are not all playing with a full deck. I mean, a full cup. Sorry, that was my one bad joke. So, he also was implying that this lack of fullness is an indication that we need to take action to address this, and that action is up to us. So what if we separate our good into a collection of cups? Maybe we could have one cup for each God quality, a cup for love, a cup for creativity, maybe one for wisdom, for harmony, whatever it might be. Or maybe we could have a collection of cups for each of the categories on the prayer list, one for health, prosperity, employment, clarity, relationship. And if we did that, we would probably find that some of our cups are full, and some maybe are nearly full, and some maybe aren't quite so full. Of course, the ones that are full would be great models for us. They can show us what's possible, what we're already succeeding at, and what we're capable of. And we know, of course, that when we focus on those successes, it generalizes. And the universe says, oh, you're into wholeness. You're into completeness, prosperity, great, coming right up. And so we have this array of cups. Some of them are full, and maybe some are half full, and those are the indicators where we might want to take some action, where action might be required. So let's do a little investigating. How many of you filled out that survey I was nagging people to fill out a few weeks ago? So a good many of you, and I thank you so much for putting your time into that. Now, there's nothing scientific about my analysis, nothing scientific about this survey, no control group, no statistics. In fact, there's nothing that would logically lead you to accept any of the results the way I'm going to present them to you today. But I can make some comments about the survey that I think are basically true. First of all, most everybody was willing to fill out the survey. As it turns out, people like to talk about themselves. About 35 people filled out this survey, and again, I thank you very much for taking that time. The majority of the people that filled it out were women. I don't actually know that, but you can just look around the room and assume that that would be true. I was also glad that it seemed that people felt safe in filling out this survey, because it seemed like their answers, their responses were quite honest. And I also found that the responses from person to person were quite unique. They weren't totally foreign. No one was so far out as to not be recognizable as a human being, but they were all certainly different from me and different from you, for that matter. So like I said, this was far from a scientific study, But I think it does kind of paint a portrait of who we are as a congregation. And maybe we can consider the results in the same light as we might the results from a Ouija board message. Looking for the relevance, and how does this relate to me? So as a reminder to those people that filled it out and to bring those that didn't fill it out up to speed, the first question on the survey asked, what do you have an abundance of in your life that you appreciate having? And I requested that the answer be in a form of 1 to 3 words, and 25 people were able to confine themselves to that directive. I'm going to pause right now just to give you a chance to remember what you did put down as your area of abundance. And maybe for those people who are here that didn't fill out the survey, you could just think for a moment, what would you put if you were to fill out a form that asked you, what do you have a lot of in your life that you really appreciate? So I'll give you a couple moments to think. So the way I see it, this first question is an indicator of our area of cups that are full. In these areas where we're succeeding, where we're content, where we're grateful. And you might have some guesses about what came up most often for people. Well, let me show you what I like to think of as a portrait of our congregation. My assistant, thank you very much, Cody. This is a word cloud. This is a collection of the words that came up. And the size of the word indicates the frequency that it occurred. So the biggest word is the word that came up most often. And it was followed by, as you can see, love is the biggest, followed by friends and family. We have peace. And I'm sure that some of these smaller words are a little bit harder to read. Health, pets are on here. Could you go ahead, Kobe, hit the arrow again? That might be a little bit easier to see. Got work. Some people said daughters, granddaughters, sisters. Nobody said husband. No sons, but no wives for that matter either. So we will just assume that they're included in family. Go ahead and show us the next slide. This is really my favorite, but it has to be dark to get the full effect. It's really quite striking in the dark. No, it's okay. The daylight, too much sunlight. Now, the second question on the survey asked, how did it get there? How did this abundance that you have present in your life come to be there? And I gave some multiple choice options that most people went with. That's nice. Thank you. And the first, by far the most popular choice was, I nurtured it. Whatever it was there because people felt that they had nurtured its presence. The next common answer was, I worked for it, followed by, I was given it. And unfortunately, the way I set this up, it wasn't really clear when people chose that answer, whether they were saying a person gave it to them, maybe a circumstance, or maybe was there some sort of higher power involved. The next one, though, which was I came with it, certainly implies to me that there was some sort of behind-the-scenes metaphysical activity going on. A few people picked I learned it. Very few people chose it happened by chance. I thought that was interesting. And there were a few outliers who wrote in responses like, by practicing the principles, or by finding this pathway. Some people selected just one cause that was behind the presence of their abundance, and other people selected several. But what I really loved, I just like to think about this so much, was the fact that most people picked nurtured. Because to me, the word nurture means caring, means loving, It means holding appreciation and concern. And don't we get back what we're putting out? We put out love, we got love. Really well done, you guys. This is indeed the reciprocity of the universe in action that we've been reading about in the Beyond Limits class recently. And it was also in the reading that Skip shared with us, that circular action, the process, the way spirit circulates. So we're putting out, what we're putting out impacts what we're receiving. Or put another way, what we're receiving is a result of what we're putting out. You may not be convinced that what you're putting out is that perfect in the way of the love and the that you express for family and friends and so on, and the love that you provide in general. But look at the result. What is out picturing in your life in the way of love and family and friends is evidence of the quality of the thoughts, words, and actions that you are putting out. So it's working for you. You should be pleased at what you have accomplished. This is really my favorite part of the talk, and if it were up to me, I'd stop right there. But I will tell you about the rest of the survey. Going on to question 3. Now here we are at the glass half full part. Question 3 asked, what do you most lack that you would like to have more of in your life? I again suggested a 1 to 3 word answer. And what I really expected was to see words coming up that had to do with what I hear people complaining about or worrying about. Things like health or money or maybe time. But didn't turn out to be that way. Instead, it was confidence and relationship. Who knew? I was really surprised to see that word confidence show up at all, particularly as such a major component. And then I had a realization that a lot of the responses on the survey really had to do with relationship, but people were using different terms. Some people actually said relationship, other people said companionship, some people said interaction with others. So I decided to manipulate the data and group all those together under the heading of relationship. And let's go ahead one more. Keep going. And here's what happened. So now relationship moves into the top slot, followed by confidence. And you do see money and health up there. And what else? Concerns about wanting more peace, wanting more patience, wanting less pain, wanting to be more creative or compassionate, and so on. So in any case, we have relationship as the top and followed by confidence. That leads me to suggest to you that you be kind and compassionate and appreciative of the people that you encounter here, because many of them are longing for connection, for meaningful relationship, and some of them feel a lack of confidence. But do you suppose this might be a reasonable description of people in general? Are we that unique in that way? At first I thought, well, wait a second, maybe there's a contradiction here. Are we saying on the one hand that in my life I have an abundance of love and friends and family, and then in the next breath I'm saying I need relationships? That didn't quite make sense. So I looked at the data again and found no. People either had those family and friend relationships in their abundance area or in their lack area, but not in both. It kind of reminded me of the quote from Suzuki Roshi, who said, "All of you are perfect just as you are, and you could use a little improvement." So, they were not on both sides. And I would like to say congratulations, because no one said, no, I don't have any abundance of any kind. But on the other hand, nobody said, I want for nothing. It seemed everybody had some area in their life that they could imagine a change or an improvement. And we each seem to have our own unique configuration. The abundance responses tended to be more general, more uniform, and the luck or the lack questions or responses tended to be more varied, seemingly demonstrating our uniqueness. And I got the sense that in these areas of abundance, it's almost as if the majority of us sort of come in with areas that are set for us. You know, these are areas that go pretty easily for us. We don't have to work very hard. And you're coming in with the basic model, the basic human model that you get to drive around. And then we're really doing pretty well, but there are certain areas where we could do a little fine-tuning just to kind of jazz things up a little bit. The final question on the survey asked, what would you do to remedy the area of lack that was stated? And these responses were all over the map. Some of them were very general. Some of them borrowed those multiple choice options from earlier. I could nurture this, I could work for it. Other people brought in other terms like I could practice such and such, I could tithe, I could be more grateful. And other people were really quite specific about the steps they thought they should take, to the point where if I told you what they were, they would probably jeopardize the anonymity of the person. Interestingly enough, there were 3 or 4 people that left this one blank. And that was not true of any of the previous questions. This was the only one that a few people left blank, as if they didn't have an idea of how they could impact a change. And if that's the case, then I say, you're in the right place. Because this philosophy in this place is all about empowering people to know how they can bring about a desired change in their life. So Holmes makes many, many references about the process of bringing about change in one's thinking that ultimately leads to change in the outpicturing of your life. And I'll just share one of those with you. He says, one should analyze himself saying, do I look at myself from a standpoint of restriction? Do I see life limited to the eternal round of getting up in the morning, eating, going to work, coming home, going to bed, sleeping, getting up in the morning, and so on? Break the bonds of apparent necessity and see life as one continuous expression of the infinite self. And as this conception gradually dawns upon the inner thought, something will happen in the outer conditions to relieve the greater demands of necessity. Free yourself forever from the thought that God may be pleased by a life of sacrifice, that the world is any better because of your misery, or that righteousness is more perfectly expressed through poverty than abundance. Know that the greater abundance of every good thing which you are bringing out in your life, the more perfectly you are satisfying the divine urge within you. Anything you can dream of is not too great for you to undertake if it hurts no one and brings happiness and good into your life. And I'd like to share with you another way that you might bring about a change in your life that I discovered recently. It was kind of a fascinating experience that I had. I've been going through some boxes of old letters. These were from my college days, young adult time. And so there were some from old boyfriends, some from college dorm roommates. And they were very, well, how would I describe them? Let's see. There was a lot of missing going on. I can't wait to see you. There was a lot of appreciation. I'm so glad you're my friend. I can't talk to anybody else about this. People had humor, they described adventures that they were having, new experiences. And anyway, I got into the habit of reading a few of these before I went to sleep every night. And after a few days, I noticed something interesting happening. And what I will call it youthifying. I noticed during the day that I just seemed to have a spring in my step. I felt more energized, more attractive, more vibrant. And all of this just because I was putting words into my mind before I was going to sleep. None of my current dramas had changed at all. I was simply having a dose of basically being told how wonderful I was right before I went to sleep. So people don't really write letters all that much anymore, but we do have conversations. And typically, in a conversation, I talk about myself, I tell you about me, and then you listen, try to be open-minded and compassionate and so on. I talk about on and on about myself, and then we'll switch, and you talk about yourself, and I attempt to keep an open mind and be non-judgmental and so on. And I suggest that maybe we should try to be a little more, change it up a little at times, so that I would talk to you about you and tell you the truth of who you are, and you have to listen with an open mind and be accepting of what you're hearing. Maybe by now you've figured out that that was what that little writing exercise was all about. People were affirming to you what the truth is about you, what your gifts are, how you impact others. So do you think the people that were writing on your back are liars? Are they deluded? Are they trying to get something from you? If you looked at them, were they kind of in agreement? Could all these people be wrong about what they're saying? The way I see it, my circle is getting smaller. It's pretty easy for me to see God, see Source in the big picture, in the universe, in nature. And with practice, I've come to see Spirit expressing through people, through things, through circumstances around me. And I believe that the work remains is primarily now on the personal level, right here as me, the hands and feet of Spirit expressing through me. So I need to continue to release old habits and accept new insights, to have more confidence in my talents and strengths. Often, though, we have a way of sabotaging ourselves, don't we? Next slide, please. Keep going. There we go. This picture is part of a silly set of pictures I have at work, at school. It's a set where something's goofy and it gets the student to explain what's wrong. Here's the bicycle with the square wheels, or the table with the shoes on the table legs. And I saw this one the other day and I just thought, this is great. I love this. So I brought it home and thought, I have to work this into the talk somehow. And much to my delight, the very next day, I was listening to an audio of Abraham Hicks. And he said, there is not a source of darkness. You don't walk into a room and look for the dark switch. You flip it and it lets that inky, misty stuff come into the room and cover up the light. You know that's not what's happening. There's not a source of badness, of evil or sickness. There's only a disallowing of the stream, of moving in the direction of that which life causes us to become. So it occurred to me that this box is a good representation of what might typically be our experience. I can relate to it anyway. So I have this box that's kind of dark and plain on the inside, but the outside is quite ornate. It's seen better days. I think I inherited this from my grandmother, but anyway. Suppose this is a representation of the way I experience life. I'm inside the box where it's kind of dark and limiting, ordinary, repetitive, and I exist totally unaware that this interior part is only a portion of what I truly am. I don't see myself from the outside, even though people tell me and circumstances indicate that there's much more to me. I just have trouble getting that, no matter how many times I'm told about it. But that experience with the letters was really eye-opening for me. I had all these words coming to me, these kind and thoughtful and truthful words coming to me from people that I trusted. And so at this point, I would like to give you an opportunity to have a dose of hearing how wonderful you are. And I'm going to ask you to go within. And as I'm speaking, listening to my words, you might notice that you feel a sense of being confined in solid walls, those walls of your life. But as I continue to speak, perhaps you can notice that these walls are indeed transparent and that you begin to see through to the beauty that you radiate, that people have been telling you about. So I want to let you know that you are radiant. You are strong. You are healthy. You are wise. You are a perfect, whole God life. All the warmth and color and beauty that there is pouring through you. Peace is at the center of your being, and you are calm and peaceful in the midst of any circumstance. There is that within you that does all things well, and your actions are sustained by infinite energy. Every person you meet recognizes the love and peace, the wisdom and courage that you are. You are truly a gift to the earth and a blessing to humankind. Without you, the universe and all that is would not be quite so glorious. And so I simply give thanks for the presence of each and every glorious and exquisite being that is here this morning. And I release these words, knowing that nothing more need be said as we each step forward in that final fine-tuning process of our lives, so that music, that amazing resonance that is being created, flows throughout the universe. How majestic. And together we say, so it is.